An advisory panel for the agency is meeting today, and on the agenda is discussion about adding the coronavirus shots to the annual schedule of childhood vaccines. The move could open the door for the shots to be required for things like attending public school. Florida Surgeon General, though, says that won't be the case in Florida. He tweeted yesterday saying nothing will change here because COVID mandates are not allowed. He also again recommended against the shots for healthy kids, something that goes against guidelines from the federal government.
So a Pfizer executive admits that the COVID-19 vaccine was never tested to see if it stopped transmission. Hey guys, my name is Jason Wesley, and this is not a podcast. Now, as many of you guys remember, my Instagram account was taken down in 2021 because I promoted natural immunity. And to this day, even in October of 2022, Instagram still has the hashtag natural immunity blocked. Now, you'll remember that Dr. Fauci even said that natural immunity was the best form of immunity.
But she's had the flu for 14 days. Should she get a flu shot?
Well, no. If she got the flu for 14 days, she's as protected as anybody can be, because the best vaccination is to get infected yourself.
And
So
she should not get it?
If she really has the flu, she definitely doesn't need a flu vaccine. If she really has the flu,
She should not get it again.
no, she doesn't need it, because it's the most potent vaccination is getting infected yourself.
So Robert Roos, a member of the European Parliament, is interviewing a Pfizer executive and asked her directly if the vaccine was tested on stopping the transmission of COVID-19 prior to going to market.
Was the Pfizer COVID vaccine tested on stopping the transmission of the virus before it entered the market? If not, please say it clearly. If yes, are you willing to share the data with this committee? And I really want a straight answer, yes or no, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Regarding the question around, did we know about stopping immunisation before it's entered the market? No. We had to really move at the speed of science to really understand what is taking place in the market. And from that point of view, we had to do everything at risk.
But the fact checkers got to this immediately to cover their overlords in government's asses to provide a fact check. Now, anytime the fact checkers say that something is, quote, missing context, it's usually that it's not really missing context. It's that they want you to think about it a certain way. Now, it wouldn't be so bad if they had the same energy when it came to fact checking inflation, recession, or other things that this administration continue to lie about. People magazine. Health experts shut down misinformation about Pfizer COVID vaccine trial. They weren't skipping a step. The AP. Post mislead on Pfizer COVID vaccine's impact on transmission. Claim. Pfizer admitted to the European Parliament that it had not tested the ability of its COVID-19 vaccine to prevent transmission of the virus before it entered the market, proving the company lied about this earlier in the pandemic. AP's assessment? Missing context. Janine Small, the president of international markets at Pfizer, told the European Parliament on Monday that Pfizer did not know whether its COVID-19 vaccine prevented transmission of the virus before it entered the market in December 2020. But Pfizer never claimed to have studied the issue before the vaccine's market release. Now listen to what the fact checker writes. Whether Pfizer knew the impact of its COVID-19 vaccine on preventing transmission. Now listen to Robert Roos' question.
Was the Pfizer COVID vaccine tested on stopping the transmission of the virus before it entered the market?
Again, the fact checkers say whether Pfizer knew the impact on preventing transmission. Now think about that. If it was never tested on stopping the transmission, then you wouldn't know the impact. Damn, I'm good! She even repeats the question.
Regarding the question around, did we know about stopping immunisation before it's entered the market? No.
Her answer was no. Now here's a supercut of the Pfizer CEO, Albert Bourla.
Of indications right now that are telling us that there is a protection against transmission of the disease. There is no variant that we have identified that escapes the protection of our vaccine.
Against COVID, to come now with a treatment of 90% effectiveness, personally makes me very proud about it.
And we know that the two doses of the vaccine offer very limited protection, if any. The 3 doses with a booster, they offer reasonable protection.
It is necessary a 4th boost right now. The protection that you are getting from the 3rd, it is good enough. Actually quite good for hospitalizations and deaths. It's not that good against infections, but doesn't last.
Now, this was a tweet from the official Pfizer account, January 13th, 2021. just a week before the inauguration. The ability to vaccinate at speed to gain herd immunity and stop transmission is our highest priority. There is a lot of work ahead, and our focus is on supporting points of vaccination, as that's key to increasing the volume of people getting vaccinated every day. I'll repeat that first line for you again. The ability to vaccinate at speed to gain herd immunity and stop transmission is our highest priority. Now, why would the fact checkers put a missing context or a misleading tag on this? It's because the government can't admit when they're wrong because they want to be your God, little g. And if they put that tag on it, it'll slow the spread of the information so that it doesn't hurt Democrats and those that call for more government control in the form of mandates. They'll gaslight you into believing the economy's great, even though we're in a recession and inflation's up 8.5%.
Bloomberg economists are forecasting a 100% chance of a recession. So how is it that we can be barreling towards a recession, and the economy is, as the president says, strong as hell?
So here's the thing about the economy, and I've said this many times. You've heard this from Secretary Yellen. You've heard this from Brian Deese, who runs our Economic Council, is that what we are seeing right now is the job market is strong. The labor force is strong. And that is not what we see usually before a recession. And so and a lot of that is because of the work that this president has done.
They'll gaslight you into believing that inflation is transitory.
Our experts believe, and the data shows, that most of the price increases we've seen were expected and are expected to be temporary. There's nobody suggesting there's unchecked inflation on the way. No serious economist. I want every American to know that I'm taking inflation very seriously, and it's my top domestic priority.
Is there a risk of inflation? I think there's a small risk, and I think it's manageable. I believe it's transitory, but I don't mean to suggest that these pressures will disappear in the next month or two. I think I was wrong then about the path that inflation would take.
They'll even gaslight you into believing that gas prices are high because of Putin's war. But now they're shifting the blame to the Saudis because the Biden administration wanted them to keep producing for at least another month to get them through the midterm so that the gas prices would be a little bit lower to help the Democrats. It was all for political gain. Now, Biden says that it wasn't for any political motives at all.
What is your response to Republicans who say you are only doing this SPR release to help Democrats in the midterms?
Where have they been the last 4 months? That's my response.
Is it politically motivated, sir? This
No,
move
it's not.
3 weeks before the midterms?
Look, it makes sense. I've been doing this for how long now? It's not politically motivated at all.
And now Biden's making threats towards the Saudis because they basically told him to kick rocks.
When this House and Senate gets back, they're going to have to. There's going to be some consequences for what they've done with Russia. I'm not going to get into what I consider and what I have in mind, but there will be consequences.
Anybody that challenges the existence of this country and this kingdom, all of us, we are projects of jihad and martyrdom. That's my message to anybody that thinks that he can threaten us.
Now, that might actually be an impeachable offense if we're keeping the same standards for impeachment. Anyways, they'll gaslight you into believing that if you get this vaccine, it'll stop transmission. The Rachel Maddows of the world told us this.
Right? Instead of the virus being able to hop from person to person to person, potentially mutating and becoming more virulent and drug resistant along the way, now we know that the vaccines work well enough that the virus stops with every vaccinated person. A vaccinated person gets exposed to the virus does not infect them. The virus cannot then use that person to go anywhere else. It cannot use a vaccinated person as a host to go get more people.
Millions of people were forced to be vaccinated or they couldn't go to school or university. Millions of people were fired from their jobs. Many people, including myself, couldn't even get a job in film and television without being vaccinated. And there are many studios in Hollywood today that you can't even walk in the lot without being vaccinated. And California didn't even release its mask mandate until about a month ago in September.
The Hawkins are visiting from England, where masking guidelines have been relaxed a while.
We were a little surprised when we got out here that it was still mandatory on public transport.
It's just so liberating after having been through such a restricted time just to not wear a mask anymore.
For months, LA has been the only California county still requiring masks on buses, trains, and planes, as well as inside transit hubs. But today that order softened to a strong recommendation.
The medical and science establishment has lost all credibility. Just this month, the Surgeon General of Florida, Dr. Joseph Ladapo, put out an emergency warning for males between the ages of 18 and 39 for an increased risk of cardiac-related death. Twitter took it down, and then they put it back up. Biden tried to stop the shipment of monoclonal antibodies to Florida.
Early this morning, thousands of Floridians woke up to news that their appointments to get treatment for COVID-19 infection were canceled by the Biden administration, which outright revoked authorization for two very popular monoclonal antibody treatments that the state of Florida really pioneered over the summer and that we've worked hard to make available to our residents who needed treatment. Mind you, the people that seek this treatment are overwhelmingly people that have been vaccinated, but yet they're still infected, and many of them are high risk.
Big tech and government were censoring doctors that came out and said that hydroxychloroquine was actually an effective drug and safe, and saying that kids can go back to school because they weren't chief vectors of transmission.
We see patients day 1, we put them on hydroxychloroquine, they come back day 7, day 10, and they're negative. It eradicates the virus. It is a cure. I don't know why people are getting crazy about this.
They think you're dangerous.
Of course they think I'm dangerous because I'm speaking truth.
And even after the study showed that cloth masks and surgical masks were ineffective at stopping the transmission of COVID-19, the totalitarian socialist communist left wanted to keep you in face diapers in public and on airplanes. And in some countries, you couldn't even leave your house or your neighborhood without having a COVID-19 vaccine passport.
There are only 3 reasons to leave the home now, not 5. Work is not a reason to leave the home for the unvaccinated. The Chief Health Officer has also determined that restriction of movement is critical right now and that 1 hour of exercise for the next 4 days is not essential. Remember, these restrictions only apply to those who are not fully vaccinated.
They turned citizens against each other based on whether you were masked and they weren't masked. And if you were one of those people that just questioned the science, you were immediately shut down because they wanted you to believe the science that they wanted you to believe, not the actual science data. And it was all based on a lie.
This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. And it's caused by the fact that despite America having unprecedented and successful vaccination program, despite the fact that for almost 5 months, free vaccines have been available in 80,000 different locations, we still have nearly 80 million Americans who have failed to get the shot.
And not just to think about, well, my freedom is being kind of disturbed here. No, screw your freedom.
There are a number of people, for one reason or other, who just do not want to comply and get vaccinated. We've got to get them vaccinated. And hopefully they will do it willingly. If not, there will have to be things that will essentially put pressure on them.
And people like Nicki Minaj, I have to say this. You have a platform, sister, that is 22 million followers. You have 22 million followers on Twitter. For you to use your platform to encourage our community to not protect themselves and save their lives, my God, sister, you could do better than that. For you to use your platform to put people in the position of dying from a disease they don't have to die from, oh my God.
Anyone who refused to get vaccinated would get ratted out immediately because we knew that person could hurt other people. We have immunocompromised people who are incubators for every variant to come. Walking around lawfully unvaccinated? That's psychotic. So it's time to admit that we have to go to war against COVID. Require vaccination universally. Have the military run it.
I believe it's in your business interest to run a vaccine-only establishment.
They respected her decision, but we have implemented this policy to maintain a safe working environment and that getting the vaccine is required. At this time, your employment will be terminated.
And I was just like, wow, really? Like, I just worked for you through a pandemic.
I just watched Tony Fauci and CNN and Fox tell me that people with the vaccine, vaccinated people, are now spreading the coronavirus. A couple of days ago, I was yes, I'm vaccinated. Yeah, a little sticker. Yay, I'm vaccinated. Be a hero, be vaccinated. I went from being a hero because I'm vaccinated
And now you motherfuckers are calling me a super spreader? I ain't no fucking super spreader. Figure this shit out.